The time is 1 minute after 4 on Wednesday, January 31st, 2024. This is a special meeting of the Redevelopment Commission of Bloomington, Indiana. My name is Deb Hutton, and I'm the continuing, for now, Vice Chair of the RDC. Could I have a roll call check-in of commissioners?
Deborah Meyerson here.
Steve Scambolari here.
John West here.
Deb Hutton here. Staff present.
Christina Finley, hand department.
Larry Allen Legal. We also have Anna Killian Hansen, the director. She is present, but she stepped out of the room for that.
Any other staff online?
Heather Lacey, legal department.
No others there?
That's it.
Okay, and I don't have my cheat sheet with me, courtesy of Deborah. So could we, are there any, this is a special meeting, so no reports. And shall I make a I move to add the claims report of, which date?
February 2nd.
February 2nd, 2024, to the minutes, to the meeting agenda after our two special events. Randy, do you want to check in as roll call, please?
Randy Cassidy, present.
Thanks.
Okay.
So,
There was if you're going to run the meeting, typically that motion is made. If we're going to do it by motion, which is totally fine, someone else other than the chair of the meeting should make that motion to amend the agenda. No, it's okay. Just as a point of order.
no, please correct us as we go along.
So if we have a motion to add the claims register, just a little bit of background before we call for that motion, I guess, is just to say that the claims, on the record, the claims are going to close this Friday, which kind of posed an unusual situation where you would be approving the claims register before you approve the claims register on Monday. So to meet the controller's deadline of when the checks will go out, we just wanted to add this to the agenda to clarify that this is when we're approving it for and that it's the appropriate approval date. I don't know if that's because of how we've gotten off on the meeting schedule for the RDC and it wasn't on the last one. So if there is a motion on the floor, we would appreciate that.
Okay. Move to add the claims for February 2nd, 2024 to the agenda for this evening.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Moving to first point of new business, Resolution 2413, lease modification for early termination, GP Strategies Corporation. Does any staff person wish to speak to us?
I could speak to this. So this is an agenda item that we took up at our last meeting, and it's been brought here again for the special session. So as you all know, as part of the purchase of Showers West, the building immediately west of us here, used for public safety, the bonds were issued based on the public safety local income, the economic development local income tax, but earmarked specifically for public safety projects. Were used to purchase that building. The RDC was the purchaser because originally the intent was the RDC would be the owner, and the RDC does own it, but bond proceeds were purchased it. For that, in order to be able to renovate part of the property, we have been executing, when appropriate, lease terminations with the tenants. This is one of them. With GP Strategies. GP Strategies has found a new location. They desire to move there. We think it's in the best interest, not just of the project as it has been planned, but even the best interest of the property going forward based on the new administration's reevaluation of the project and that ongoing conversation to terminate this lease. The last time that we had a conversation about this particular lease, there was questions because the terms of this lease, unlike the others, we're not paying anything affirmatively for the termination of this lease. What this agreement is to terminate this lease is essentially foregoing any future rent obligation, and then GP Strategies, unlike some other tenants, had a build-out allowance that they had received tenant improvement allowance at the beginning of their lease. We had paid that as part of closing. We had paid a certain amount as part of closing from the bond proceeds. And so they were paying an additional amount on top of their rent to cover the tenant improvements. They still have a balance on that tenant improvement. And so what we were saying is, since we are going to forego the remaining rent, we also forego the extra payment for tenant improvements. At the time of closing last year, in January 31st, 2023, that amount was $92,468. The amount that remains from after they paid for an entire year of rent and the extra payments is $65,405.09. And so that is the amount, that's on top of the rent that they were paying, which was, I can happily get that because that was also another question. GP Strategies has about not quite 11,000 square feet in the building. They pay $10.98 per square foot, which comes out to be just under $120,000 a year in rent, so $119,417.40, which does not include that tenant allowance amount that's on top of that. The tenant allowance amount that's on top of that comes out to about $27,000 annually. So that's why you see the reduction from the 90,000 to the 65,000. So what we are asking here is that you approve the lease termination, and just in terms of the transparency about what would be forgiven is that we would forego the revenue that you all would get in the 444 account of not just the rent, but also that additional amount for the tenant improvement.
What's the length of their lease that they still have?
There are options for this. So their lease currently goes through 2026, so June 30th, 2026, but there were options to extend this particular one all the way out to 2036.
And could you say again what took us from the 90,000 to the 65,000?
They paid the rent for the last year and the tenant improvement additional amount on top of
Okay.
it.
So where would that 65,000 have come from? Who
It
did
just
pay
wouldn't
it?
come in.
Who did pay? Originally, really who paid it was CFC. So CFC
Okay.
paid it up front, but during the closing, as part of the credits and adjustments, we did pay for that amount since CFC had already paid for it. So there was an additional $92,468 as part of the closing that came out of the bond to account for that revenue that we would potentially get in the future. It's also offset, it's offset by certain credits as well that we got for security deposits and things
Okay.
like that.
So to be clear, relative to the three that we approved last week, which was 30,000, 5,000, 9,000 actual dollars those tenants are going to receive from the city,
Correct.
this crew is not going to, they're going to receive zero money, and we're saying the value of what we are not going to receive, that we're going to lose the value of 65,000, but they're not receiving any money from us.
That's correct. So
Is that
really, the way I think of this, and it's about the opportunity cost. So
Mhm.
what you're gaining in opportunity cost here, there's an opportunity cost of foregone rent and the money for the build out. What you're gaining though is essentially 11,000 square feet of usable space
Mhm.
for city purposes at $10.98 per square foot, which is a relative bargain in lease terms. Or in my experience, John may have different experience. Just also to note, John represents FC Tucker, and we've been working with Chris Cochran on this, who is contracted through FC Tucker, so he has agreed to recuse himself from these conversations and the voting on this particular matter.
Questions for commissioners?
I'm just wondering, we had discussed at the last meeting a way to have a record of what the foregone rent is, what you just discussed in terms of what the lease term end was, just because it's a way to account for what that opportunity cost is, because there's multiple tenants that are being removed and there's income obviously being chosen, to move in another direction in terms of the acquisition of Showers West. So my question is, it's not in the resolution, not in the exhibit, where is this information? Because we had agreed last time that would be included in the meeting minutes. So my question is, for these two resolutions, is that going to be the same mode? Are there other ways that record of those figures will be recorded?
We could do this a couple of different ways, Commissioner Myerson, which is, one way is we could record it in the minutes. Also, I'd be happy to just provide a one-page exhibit B to this resolution that reflects all of these that we add on to it, just an addendum. It would say, here's the lease term, here's the rent amount, here's what the credit is that we paid at closing, this is the amount that's been paid over the year, this is what still remains due as of January 31st, 2024. And so that is the foregone. I can do that. I'm happy to do that. Another way we can do it is if you want us to amend a resolution, I could do that on the spot. And so the resolution as amended would be just to add, what we could do is just add a whereas clause to just say the total tenant allowance as of January 31st, 2024 is X amount, so the $65,000, which is perfectly
Yeah, thank you for those options. I'm just wondering if, commissioners obviously will discuss the different options you mentioned. If we chose an Exhibit B, for example, is that something that could be comparably appended to all the resolutions of this, both the ones that were approved at the last meeting as well as, just kind of have parallel information so
Yeah,
that
no, that's
it's
fine.
mostly just the public transparency of how's the money being spent and what's being forgone and having it on
how
the
they
record and not
rank.
having to look through the minutes for it. So just wondering in terms of having that consistency across similar resolutions that are terminating these leases, just to have that information as that Exhibit B, if it's in one, if we could have it in all.
Yes, and I think if you moved, I'm just trying to think of the mechanism to do that
Okay.
in particular, just to make sure that that's on the.
I don't want to
record.
get hung up on it, but I thought that.
I know, yeah, I'm just trying to, yes, is it possible? Yes, and we could figure out a way of doing that. So even if it's a contingency approval of this resolution, what we would do is I put those together and just have them in your packet for next time so that, one, it's clearly disseminated to everybody who gets the packet, and then we'll draw attention to it at your next meeting, which is Monday. We'll draw attention to it Monday, just saying, oh, these are the ones you already approved. Here's the Exhibit Bs that you have gone back, and we will add to the file for these particular ones.
Here's the approvals to terminate the leases, and the total amount of dollars that we're looking at giving up from a cost standpoint and from a lease loss standpoint. Then that would be a cumulative total, and the existing leases that we already have that we still, I think there indicated there were approximately 7 that still needed to be dealt with.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if you need to do that executive session or not, but.
I think for any remaining leases, I think that's best held for
Okay.
executive session because we do need to, so as you all know, and I mentioned this last time, the Mayor Thompson has put together a working group specifically on Showers West and what the future of Showers West looks like, and that's something that's happening currently. It has been a group that's been meeting on Fridays to discuss those options. Because there's an element of strategy and real property strategy there, I think that is probably best reserved for executive session in terms of what those additional remaining leases are, what the strategy would be, and what the options are for both the commission and from the administration's perspective about what they want to see. That would be my recommendation.
Okay. And then the only other question I have in regard to it is GP that we're looking to terminate and forgive the build out and basically essentially another $120,000 a year in rent. Are they still going to be able to want to stay in downtown Bloomington? Because when we look at our overall employment aspect from our community as a whole, having those businesses centered in our community is always vital and important to have that. So as we look at that, we want to work with our tenants, we want to be able to work with our community employers, but as we look at changing these, how can we help them to want to relocate and stay in downtown Bloomington?
And I can't tell you for sure, as I sit here, I don't want to be evasive about where they're moving, but I can tell you that that is a consideration that we have for all of these. There is an economic development angle of all of this as well, which is we do want to treat our employers well. We want to find quality places, and that was kind of the idea behind engaging a broker in the first place. Is if we know that people are going to be moving out of the building, we want to find them quality places within the immediate downtown, and honestly even within the consolidated TIF and other areas, if we can, to keep the employment structure, to keep those good relationships, and keep the economic development aspect of it vibrant, while also having a property that we could potentially use.
Utilize for the best benefit of the community as a whole.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's-
Exactly. So I just want to say that is a consideration, and I can find out the details about GP strategy.
Well, my main objective is, as we come to the individual companies and the owners and the people that are working there, to give them a sense of continuity of community in how we work together, because, being a more mature, older individual here, when Showers was originally done, it was a 3-pronged tier that was set up between city government, private individuals, and Indiana University, or through, Lloyd Alcott.
Yep.
The name is BFMC, or not BFMC. Yeah, anyway, the third
It's a municipal
one,
facility.
BFMC,
Yeah.
that indicated we had the university, all of us together. So as we change things somewhat because of time and age, that we reach out to them in open arms and say, we want the good employers downtown to fill in our community. So,
Absolutely.
okay. Sounds good. So this is just basically $65,000 gig right now. We lose the rent, but we're going, in order to ensure that we continue to move forward, there is a working group that is actively working to identify what we're going to do with this facility, whether it be police, fire, or some other.
Exactly, yeah, and what the best options are for each.
Do we have a time frame, or is that?
So, well, Monday, so you'll be hearing about the bids, because that's the next kind of trigger point. So, as this is getting a far field a little bit of the resolution, so just if you'll grant me the indulgence of speaking slightly off topic, I appreciate it. We received bids for Showers West, a full renovation as it was designed last year on December 11th. You all considered that December 18th and voted to postpone consideration of those bids until your first meeting in February, which is Monday. You have, under Indiana law for public work bidding process, you have 60 days to award the bids. You have options, of course. You don't necessarily, if you want to award the bid as it was stated, then you have to do it within those 60 days. Then, if you fail to do it within those 60 days, it becomes the contractor's option of whether they extend their pricing longer than that. Or you have the option of rejecting all of the bids. So what we anticipate is bringing to you Monday a recommendation on action towards those bids, because that 60 days from December 11th will expire between your first and second meeting in February. So really this first meeting in February is where that action needs to occur.
And just to be clear, the efforts of the working group on Showers West will inform you of those recommendations,
That
right?
is correct. I do not plan on going rogue and making my own recommendations.
Don't go there.
Sue or John, do you have comments to this resolution, 2413?
No, I appreciate the additional
Like
information.
Larry said, I'm going to recuse myself from voting, so.
I'd like to propose an amendment to the resolution that would add that Exhibit B, as Mr. Allen suggested. I mean, he proposed different options. If commissioners want to discuss the other options, I'm interested in hearing your thoughts, but I'm proposing an amendment that would add Exhibit B as he described in his earlier outline.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And recuse.
That's on the amendment, right?
That was on the amendment, so now we vote on the resolution as amended.
So, could I have a motion? Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 24-13 as described,
As amended.
as amended. Thank you.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 And one recuse. Thank you. We'll now turn to Resolution 2415, lease modification for early termination, Bloomington Symphony Orchestra. Any staff want to speak to this resolution?
So I'll speak to this again. So this came up, this was unfortunately, we received the documentation to this too late to include in your last meeting. And since we were gonna already have this special meeting, we thought we'd just pair this together. Understanding that this would be subject to the same Exhibit B, so that would be added to this as well. This is to terminate the lease of the Bloomington Symphony Orchestra, which has a relatively small footprint in the office. Let me pull it up here. Yeah, so Bloomington Symphony Orchestra, they rent 637 square feet in Showers West. Their annual rent is $7,580. Their lease goes through until January 31st of 2025. As per the other recommendations, Bloomington Symphony Orchestra, as part of the termination, requested assistance on helping them move and find a different location. We have used our resources, I think, to find them a suitable location. The other thing is, how do we cover the cost of Bloomington Symphony Orchestra? This is one of our nonprofits in the downtown, so the settlement agreement here is to give them $10,000 that would cover the cost of hiring a moving company, being able to pack up their entire office and move it to the next location. I will also mention that in this particular case, where Bloomington Symphony Orchestra is located within the building, it is part of the fire administration design footprint, which is still very much on the table to utilize. almost immediately. There is a continuing need to get fire administration in a location. They are currently in your College Square property, as you may realize or may understand. I know you all do. In the what was the former Bunger Robertson law offices. And so one of the goals of the Showers West project was to find a suitable replacement for the offices for fire administration, which includes fire inspection, mobile integrated health, etc. And one of the benefits of this particular part of the building is that the upstairs and the downstairs are very well finished and apportioned as office spaces already, and so they're almost nearly move-in ready with some updates, some fairly minor updates. So this is one of the easier ways, and so this clears a path of making it a little bit easier to potentially just move fire administration in, even with a smaller, reduced necessity for significant upgrades to certain parts of the building. So it doesn't have the same kind of detailed security measures that police needed, things like that.
Thank you, Larry. It was pointed out that I made a mistake as leader of the meeting today and didn't have asked for public comment on the last resolution having to do with GP strategy. So to correct my mistake, are there any public comments on GP strategies and termination, online or in the person?
Yeah, I think I'm the only one, and I do appreciate you passing the resolution. My name's Aaron West. I'm the director of the office here and senior director of our North American business. And to echo what was stated, we've been here in one shape or another for the last 20 years. At one point in time, having probably over 100 resources sitting in the space up here in a couple different suites. And it was important for us to try to argue with our management team as we expanded to maintain a footprint here. And that's what we're currently doing, is making sure that we still have a footprint in Bloomington, so we have that underway, and hopefully we'll actually sign the paperwork tomorrow to start moving into another location.
Excellent.
So I appreciate it. Thank you.
No, my apologies for neglecting you in the first
It's
place.
okay.
But thank you for your comments. Anyone else, Zoom or in person? Okay, thank you. Back to resolution 2415. Larry, thank you for the explanation and
Larry,
questions.
what was the annual rent for Symphony?
$7,580.64.
You say 70,000?
7,000.
Thank you, okay.
I may have said 70. I meant
Okay, I was like,
Man,
I'm a BSO fan, and,
That's a well
yeah,
worth it.
yeah, I was gonna say that, yeah.
$9,000 per square foot for you.
Like, whoa. Okay,
Questions from commissioners?
yeah, just
or
wanna make
comments?
sure, yeah. Make sure that BSO, they stay operational and continue and with the missions that they've set forth. And if nobody goes to see them, you should, they're very good. So I'll make a resolution to
Well,
approve.
we have to have public comments.
Public comment, thank you.
Public comments?
Hi, I'm Donna Lafferty. I'm Alexis Witt. We're with the BSO. I'm the executive director. She's our board president. We've been very stressed out, and I spoke to you on the phone the other day about this because we've kind of been ready to go for a long time, and everything's packed up. Our office is unusable over there, and we're really hoping this was going to get resolved today, so we're very grateful that this is done. We've got a new space. The movers are coming on Friday morning as long as you guys sign off on this.
And thank you for that endorsement.
Yes, and thank you.
Please come to our concert.
Concert on March 3rd.
Yeah.
Concert on March 3rd.
Yeah.
The workshop.
And we're staying close. Our new location is gonna be just right behind the old hospital building, so we wanna stay right where
The
we are.
Hopewell area,
Mhm.
yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Good deal.
Other public comments or on Zoom? Seeing none, do we have a motion from the commissioners?
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation as proposed.
Second?
This is probably not the way to say it, but does anyone want to add, but we want Exhibit B?
I thought Mr. Allen said that
That would
was,
just be now
and
for all.
it's good to
That's
clarify
done.
that.
Okay.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
we have a first and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 4 ayes and 1 recusal. So, with those, we go back to the new point of the claims for February 2nd, 2024, for the total of,
It has been scanned and in your inbox, and the one you questioned was actually a bond payment.
great. So I had asked Anna in specific about page 3, item number 7255. It was $1,485,000 to Bloomington TIRB 2015, et cetera. And you said that's for?
It's for a bond payment. I also asked and received a copy of the invoice from the controller's office and emailed it to you guys as well. So it's for the residential TIF, I believe.
Yeah, so for this, well, not residential,
Or
so this
TIF,
particular
sorry.
bond payment is for the consolidated TIF.
Consolidated.
Good. As long- We haven't got a residential
Yeah,
yet.
sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. That I'm aware of.
No,
Okay.
not yet. Anna's
Commissioners,
working on it.
do you have
I
any?
am not.
That was my question, but other commissioners
No,
have
I
questions
appreciate,
about it?
appreciate the
Mhm.
clarification.
Deborah, Randy,
No, thank you, I
We're good.
appreciate that.
John?
Anything over with 6 zeros tends to,
You might want to ask.
yeah,
about
might want to
it.
ask the question.
I don't blame you at
Okay.
all.
If there are any, no more comments or questions from commissioners, could I have a motion, please?
Move approval for payment.
You take public comment on claims?
Do we take public comment on claims?
Not typically.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion from John West.
And a second
Yep.
from Mr. Cassidy.
Second.
Oh, from Randy.
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All in favor, unanimous. Is there any other business or general discussion?
One thing, because I just want to let everybody know that Anna is doing a phenomenal job taking into consideration all the things that have just been put on her in regards to all the redevelopment aspects of Hopewell, the other historic things, and the amount of work that she is having to take on is phenomenal. She's doing a great job.
Here, here. Seeing no other business, could I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See you all Monday.
Thank you all
All right,
staff for
Monday.
getting us all together.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.